Welcome to Sociable Art on YouTube with Ariane. Today we're going to paint a sea oat or seagrass sunset. And if you ordered a paint at home kit, you can see I just unrolled my canvas. This is an 11 by 14 canvas. You can also purchase a 9 by 12 printed canvas, and it comes with paint and brushes, and you can purchase those at sociableart.com. Or if you want to just paint this on a blank canvas, you can do that as well. You could sketch out the design yourself or just work from a blank canvas. Right now I'm just taking some masking tape and I'm taping my canvas to a board or to a table. Just know that you might get some paint on whatever surface that you're painting on, so you might want to cover it. So I'm just painting all the edges. There's a little bit of room on the printed canvas for you to tape your canvas. And then you can just pull that off at the end and you won't get paint on the sides there. So I have put my paints that come with the kit onto a plate, a styrofoam plate, but a palette also comes with the kit, or you can use a palette. It's all a matter of preference. I like using the plate because I can just mix really easily between the colors. So what colors you need. If you didn't get the kit, then you're just going to need some white, yellow, purple, pink, a cobalt blue, and some black. Also make sure to have a paper towel handy and wet your brushes first and then dry them off so they're not drippy wet. And right now I'm just starting with my bigger brush, a medium-sized flat brush, and I'm taking some yellow paint and maybe mixing just a little white with it. And I'm brushing that along the horizon, just kind of doing some short little back and forth strokes you can see here. And this is just the area where I think the sun would be coming up. So I want to make this nice and bright yellow. There might be a little bit of white down here where the actual sun is just, I'm sorry, not coming up but setting. This is supposed to be a sunset. So I'm continuing to do these little back and forth brush strokes. And I wanted to mention that it can really help to add some water to your paint to make it a little thinner and looser, especially if you find you're having trouble getting the paint to fill in the grooves on the canvas, like you're still seeing canvas showing through. You might just be someone that doesn't like to use a lot of paint, and that can be me sometimes too, so I have to add water into my paints to make it go farther. And also you can wet the canvas a little bit with just a damp, clean brush to make the paint go a little farther. And right now I'm just using a little bit of pink paint along with the yellow. I mixed the magenta, which is the pink, in with a little bit of yellow paint. And if you want colors to kind of combine, you want to have both of them wet next to each other. So I want to have the yellow wet still, and if it's not, then I need to add more yellow and make that a little bit more wet so the colors will combine. And I'm also switching back to yellow occasionally on my brush. I'm not cleaning the brush between colors, but occasionally I'm just dipping in a little yellow and adding that. It's like I'm mixing the colors right there on the canvas while they're wet. So here I am adding a little bit more bright pink, and also you can dip into the white occasionally and add a little bit of white in to get a more subtle shade. And you notice that in this video I am dipping into the water quite regularly and adding that into the paint. Or as I said, you can also take a brush, a clean brush, and just wet the canvas just a little bit. Not so it's like really damp, just so it's just got a little bit of moisture on it, so it will take the paint a bit more easily. And the kind of brush strokes I'm doing, you can see I'm kind of going back and forth and going over areas that I've already done a little bit to blend in some of the color. I just didn't want it to be there to be any areas of just solid, straight color. You know, it's not, it's very rare you would see a sunset with such bold, straight colors. So here, what I just added was a little bit of white mixed to my pink, and that's why it looks a little bit lighter than that pink below it. The pink below it is a straight magenta or straight pink. And I'm taking this down all the way to the horizon line and into the yellow a little bit. And if you're not finding that your colors are blending, like the yellow didn't blend well with the pink that we're putting on now, you don't have to worry, because you can go back to the yellow and add some of that in, and I'm going to do that a little bit later too. And you can always go back to your yellow and try and blend it in, because the yellow is really nice to you can put it, you can layer it because it's a transparent kind of color. So you can layer that on top of other colors. I got something in my on my canvas here, a little fleck of something I'm trying to get off. It's very irritating, can't get it off. Okay, so adding more pink, and in the center there I've added some white into the pink. Just using the back and forth brush strokes to go over the area to blend it. And here I am with the brush adding water onto my canvas up above so that the paints will flow a little bit better. So you can see that that really helps my paints going on much, not sticking into the canvas. It's really smoothly going on here. So I'd really suggest that you try that technique. See how much better it's blending. So we started with the yellow and maybe added a little white to it. Now we're doing the pink, and there's also some white added to parts of this. And now I'm adding a little bit of purple. And I think I mixed a little bit of the magenta, a little pink in with this purple shade. If you don't have purple, you can always mix it if you have magenta, with magenta and blue, or with red and blue and white. It's a little harder to mix purple with the red and blue. You should be able to, but it's just more difficult to get the right shade you might want. So I often just buy purple because I get a better color. And here I am just adding, up here there's a little bit of straight purple. And I'm just blending that in with the back and forth brush strokes. I like that dramatic look of that dark purple up there on the top. My sky is going to get much darker up here. And one thing I want to mention, in watching myself paint the video, I see one thing I always do wrong, besides not using enough paint, which, that's just one of my problems. Some people use too much paint. I just am always real spare with my paint. I should use more. But the other thing is how I hold my brush. And I know this, and I just have such a hard time breaking this habit. But try to hold your brush not so close to the end like I do. Don't hold it like a pencil like I do. Try to hold it more towards the end of your brush. You'll get better brush strokes that way and management. But I just, once you've done something for a long time, it's very hard to change it. So I left some blank spots on my canvas, as you can see, because I do want to add a little bit of blue into my sky, and I just wanted to leave a little opening for that so it will really come out bright. If I had just done it on top of the purple, that's fine too. It'll just be it wouldn't be quite as bright. It would just be a little duller, and I just wanted it to be a dramatic sunset. So I'm adding that blue. The blue, I'm using the cobalt blue, but I had mixed a little bit of white in with it to make it just a little bit brighter. So I'm just filling in those blank sections. And as I said, you can do some just right over top of the purple too. And if you find, for whatever reason, maybe your paint dried and it's not blending well, don't forget that you can always go back to the previous color that you used, which would have been purple, and blend that back in, get that wet again, and blend that into the blue so that you'll have both the blue and the purple wet at the same time, and then they'll blend much better. So I'm just filling in this area. This part I definitely added a little bit of white paint too, and I'm overlapping a little bit into the purple sky as well. And if I forget to say so, don't forget that when we work on the area below where the ocean is, we're going to have the colors reflected in the ocean. But also remember that you can wet that area with a clean brush first so that the paint will go on more smoothly. But that being said, I would not wet the area directly below the horizon line. Same thing with when you're doing the silhouette, the sand part in the front. I wouldn't get that line where the sand touches the water. I wouldn't get that wet because it will bleed into the part you just painted. So get the other areas wet, but not the transition area between sky and ocean, or ocean and sand. So just doing a lot of back and forth little brush strokes just to blend things more smoothly. And then I'm going to add some of the yellow reflections into the water, just using a horizontal, kind of a zigzag, a back and forth stroke to add that reflection where it would appear in the water. And then I'll go on to adding the pinks and the blue and the purples that you see up in the sky. And you know, this is your painting. You don't have to do it exactly the way that I do it. So if you want to just make your water darker and not have as many reflections, you can do that. It's really up to you. But the one thing to be consistent with in the water, I like to do the brush strokes here in the water in horizontal strokes. And I'm just going to go through the different colors, adding the blue down here with a little white, and so on. I'll add all the other colors that you see in the sky into my water. One thing I want to mention here is, see here along the horizon line, I've just added a little bit of a very watered down, diluted kind of a purple or pink right along the horizon line, just to make it clear that there's a separation there, that there is an ocean there, and it's not the continuation of the sky. So I just ran a little bit of that diluted pink or purple right along the horizon line so you could see that the separation. And that pink I added there, I think that was way too bright, so I just went back and added some white into it to make it not so dramatic. And I think I'm going to have to go back to the yellow and white, just to add some of that. Yeah, here I go, adding some of that reflection back in, because it just kind of, the pink took over a little too much of that area and I lost too much of the reflection. So I'm going back and using yellow mixed with white and some horizontal strokes, just adding a little bit of that back in. And if you were worried in the beginning about painting over the printed area of the seagrasses, if you're worried that you would not be able to see those, you can see that they're still very apparent, so that you'll be able to paint them with the black paint in a little bit when you're ready. I'm still just adding a little bit more of the reflections. And when we get ready to do the sand area, which will be next, I did not use straight black, even though it might look that way in the video or in the picture. What I used is a gray shade, pink and white and black. And I'm going to use a little teeny bit of that in the sky too. So right now what you see me doing is just kind of blending with a little bit of white and pink. But I'm going to go make some black mixed with white and pink and make this shade of gray. And I'm going to do just a little bit of clouds. You don't need to do this. If your sky looks great, I would say please just leave it the way it is. It doesn't need anything more, and I don't want you to mess it up by adding black clouds. But there would be some dark shadowed clouds sometimes at sunsets, and it really makes the other colors more dramatic when you add these. So I'm just adding a little bit of shadowy dark clouds. And this is black, white, and purple. I mean black, white, and pink or magenta. I'm just going to add a few of those here and a little bit up high in the sky. And it's really just done with little dabs of the brush. Just look in the sky and see how clouds look when they're way up high in the sky and how the wind sort of pulls them apart a little bit. So I'm just doing little dabs with the black and, well, it's actually gray. And then I'm going to start filling in the sand below. And I'm going to use that same shade of pink, white, and black for the area that's farthest away from us. And then as I move closer with the brush to the bottom of the canvas, then I'm going to start adding more and more black so that by the time we get to the bottom of this sand area, it will be completely black. Or black and purple, I should say. I think I'm going to add a little black, purple to my black at the bottom. So even though this looks like black, it's really a shade of gray, pink, white, black. And I could see in this video that I did not add enough water, and that's why I'm having trouble getting that paint to flow. So I would suggest either you wet this bottom part with some water, but not on that line where it touches the ocean, and then it will make it much more easy to fill in this area. So I'm going to continue to fill in with this gray shade I created, and then when I get lower towards the bottom of the canvas, I'll start adding more black and a little bit of purple, so it'll be darkest at the bottom. So in a minute, we're going to get ready to do the sea oats or the seagrasses. And I just wanted to say that a lot of people have trouble with doing thin lines. And so don't feel bad if it's difficult for you. This is one of the hardest things I think beginners have to do is make these thin lines. So here's a tip for you. Number one, add a little bit of water to your paint so it's a thinner paint. It will flow better. Secondly, when you're using your brush, you have to be sure not to press down very hard, because the harder you press down, if you don't use a light touch with that brush, and the harder you press down, the more the bristles on the brush, the little hairs, will spread out, and so it'll give you a thicker line, and you'll have very thick sea oats. The other thing is, if you have a nice medium brush, that's what I'm going to use. Most people think they want to use the smallest brush they have, and you can. It just doesn't hold as much paint. So I'm putting the paint into this medium brush and flattening it out on the side of my plate, and I am using that to do my lines. And I'm using my pinky to kind of balance my hand. And then I'm trying to do these lines quickly and confidently. Like before I even put the brush on the canvas, I know where it's going, and I just take it there as quickly and smoothly as possible. And I like to use the medium brush, use the edge of the medium brush, but you can use your small brush too. The other thing is, you should find, and here I'm showing you the little skinny brush, you can use that too, but to me it doesn't work quite as well. And I'm using that right here. But if you find that your lines come out thick anyway, do not worry about it. So you have thick grass, in your painting. That is fine. Maybe you're closer up to the grass and that's why it's thicker. So here I am just speeding through the rest of the process of adding the grasses. And I had some wavy grasses in there. And also I took the grasses all the way down to the bottom of the canvas and added a few more. And then I removed my paint and voila, here's the finished painting. And if you like this, please hit the like button and subscribe to see more videos. And you can shop at sociableart.com. Thank you.